Hi everyone, and welcome to our webinar today. I'm Rebecca Bright, the co-founder of Therapy Box and a speech and language therapist. I'm hoping everybody can hear me okay. Perhaps if there's any concerns, you can enter those in the chat area, and Gabrielle and Alex, who are also here from Therapy Box, can support with any questions. If you've got any questions about the topic in general or related to the webinar, if you could enter them in questions, and we'll aim to answer those at the end wherever possible. But if you do have any questions, please enter those there, and I hope that you're able to hear everything okay. Great, so let's get started. So I'm going to set up I'm just going to double check if people can see my screen. Perhaps if Gabrielle or Alex can just confirm that they can, that would be great.
I can't. I'm trying to Rebecca. Up. I think we should be. Oh
now
yes,
you
now
can
yes.
see my screen. Great. Yes. I see some questions in the chat box. People have confirmed that they've got sound. That's good. And I think now everybody can see the screen. You should be seeing a title screen. Okay, perfect. So, as I said, welcome to our webinar. We're talking today about using visual scene displays to create communication aids on the fly. This is to quite an overt disclosure that we are the company behind Therapy Box, or we are Therapy Box rather, and we are behind the apps Seen and Heard, which you're going to see today, but also a range of other AAC related apps, Predictable, Chattable, and Voco Tempo. We're a London-based team who focus on technology for speech and language, covering AAC, but also covering machine learning and in the use of identifying communication disabilities. We're involved in a number of research studies. So happy to talk about those on another webinar perhaps. So hello from us. As I said, I'm Rebecca Bright, the co-founder of Therapy Box. I'm a speech and language therapist by background and have been running Therapy Box since 2010. I'm joined by Gabrielle, who you can see in the picture here, and also have Alex on standby for any questions. And Gabrielle is going to be co-presenting with me today.
Yes, hi. I will demo the app a bit further.
So this is the plan for the webinar today. We're hoping to cover an introduction to visual scene displays, have a look at some of the opportunities and indeed barriers for using visual scene displays, and then spend some time showing you how Seen and Heard works, and including how multimedia can be used with that. As I said, if you've got any questions, please just enter them in the chat box, and either Alex will answer them as we go, or we'll save them for the end if they're for discussion. So, number of definitions on what a visual scene display is, and I think most people would be familiar with these. The Buchelman and Miranda definition, that it's a picture or photograph or a virtual environment that depicts and represents a situation, place, or experience. So that definition's been around for a while. I really haven't got the year on that. And then 2014 definition from the Leaders Project, which is a highly contextualized and personal AAC system that can be used for children or adults of all ages with significant cognitive or linguistic limitations. So a slightly different description of visual scene display. In my experience as a clinician, but also in working with clinicians that use seen and heard, I think there are lots of opportunities for people to use visual scene displays, and lots of ways in which we hear from people that they're being used right across the age range. And we know that the research suggests that visual scene displays can be beneficial for people we consider to be emergent communicators, so particularly younger children, but also for those with significant cognitive or linguistic difficulties. Most of the literature in regards to visual scene displays in general is around children on the autism spectrum, and as I said, younger children with more complex communication needs. And there's quite a bit of work around adults with aphasia. In terms of seen and heard, there's a little bit of work around it being used by younger adults and adults with learning disabilities in Australia. So there's quite a bit of work around it being used there. There's work around it being used by people with primary progressive aphasia as a communication support. And as I said, anecdotally, we hear from clinicians using it all the time, and people use it, from my experience, with either children who are very early on in their use of ASC, with the view to it being the first system that they might use. We hear a lot about it being used as a secondary app for people who have another system, maybe a grid-based system, for communication related to more on-the-fly topics, for creating things in the classroom or creating things at home. And we also hear about seen and heard being used with people with learning disabilities going to college, doing life skill type activities, and being used with some of the other features that are in the app that aren't the sort of traditional visual scene display features that Gabrielle's going to show you later, the timetabling tools and the tools that enable you to run through sequences of activities. We also find people use it with adults with aphasia. The other area that it gets used quite a lot is where there's nothing suitable for a particular linguistic or cultural background, where clinicians sort of really don't have another system that they can use, and using seen and heard, they can fairly quickly create a tool which can be used in the person's native language with family, helping, for example. So if there's some of the opportunities, the benefits are visual scene display apps in general, that they're generally quite quick and easy to set up and use and intuitive. And I think one of the reasons that that's a real benefit is that it's often an easy way for parents or families to get involved with setting up content for somebody using ASC, or for schools or teaching assistants or people who are less ASC savvy or familiar to find an easy ramp into using ASC, because it's using a lot of tools on an iPad, for example, that somebody's very familiar with already. Other benefit is it's often quite visually appealing, and that you can use content that for the person who's using the communication aid that appeals to them, that may be really motivating. And I think probably the key benefit is that you can provide a very high level of contextual information visually. So in that way, it's quite efficient. So if it was going to be a visual scene that was relating to the child in the classroom, for example, you're providing all of that information in just a single screen, with access to quite a lot of vocabulary that you'd be able to isolate there. Very often, visual scene displays are able to promote more social communication. They're not set up necessarily just to request needs or wants, but they can be conversation supports. As I said, there was a study that looked at it in terms of a conversation support people with primary progressive aphasia, and really it was that was the way that the app was used. the benefit of using such a visual scene with so much content in it is that it may also support receptive language. And when we released the app back in 2013, Seen and Heard, what people found really interesting was that it was so personalizable and so motivating, using, you know, a child's photos of the child's room or their favorite things or their favorite people. And so that sometimes has been a way of getting children up and running with an AAC system where there might have been previous barriers. And the benefit of being able to create on the go, just-in-time communication, which can be important for all sorts of settings, from acute care through to you know, use in the classroom or out on a school trip and so on. There are, of course, barriers to using visual scene displays, and I think and limitations of a system. So, for example, Seen and Heard. Oops, sorry, we lost my screen back. Seen and Heard supports communication for whatever someone's programmed, so therefore it's limited. So it's less likely to facilitate communication outside of what's in the app. So you being able to talk about something novel that you haven't programmed, or to generate spontaneous utterances is quite challenging. And very often you're reliant on somebody else anticipating what you might want to communicate. While I do think there's scope for the person who uses the communication aid to help decide what goes on in there, the very nature of the type of people that use a visual scene display app means that they're going to require potentially quite a lot of support. And so what's in there is at the discretion of whoever's helping with the app. And so very much visual scene displays are just one part of somebody's AAC toolkit. And so therefore, another barrier, which is that it's often not funded, or it's more difficult to seek funding, at least in the UK, for example, because it doesn't necessarily tick a box that can be more easily ticked with a robust core vocabulary across a grid-based system, or indeed a text-based system, which more clearly and more perhaps comprehensively would support someone's communication. So it can be a challenge to fund visual scene display apps. At least that's my experience here in the UK. Okay, I'm going to hand over to Gabrielle, who's going to walk you through Seen and Heard and show you some of the really key features from the visual scene hotspots, how to add a schedule, the communication book, and how to add hotspots. So I'm going to try to do that as efficiently as possible and hand over that.
Can everyone see my screen? Oh no, I think Rebecca will still see yours.
Well, you've all seen my board, and I'll put myself on mute and hand over to Gabrielle.
I think it's. Can you all see the app now? Rebecca, could you confirm that you see the app?
Yes, we can see that. It's fine.
Okay. Okay, so hi everyone. My name is Gabrielle. I work for Therapy Box, obviously, and so I'm going to demo the app to you guys. So this is the main screen. As you can see, we have quite a wide range of pre-built scenes. The way it works, it's actually really simple. You just select a scene. Oh, sorry, just before I start, just to let you know, the iPad is connected to my computer, and so we won't be able to hear the sound of my iPad because it's either my voice or the iPad I need to choose, and I think it's better for you to have explanation instead of what's happening on the screen. So I just entered a scene. As you can see, we can see a hotspot on each on the scene, and when I press one of the hotspots, it will describe what is happening on the screen. So yes, let's say I know this one a bit better. If I select this hotspot here, it will say Michael is too short to reach the bar or whatever. So yes, so that's the way it works. So what you can also do with Scene and HUD is task prompts, like brushing my teeth. So this is basically 3 scenes in one, explaining a child how to brush the teeth. So if I start, so put your toothpaste on your brush and put it in your mouth. Once the task is completed, you press the validate icon. Then it opens the second task, brush all your teeth for 2 minutes. And you have the possibility to attach a timer to tasks as well. So once you're done, you validate. And then final step, spit out and rinse your mouth. And once you're done, you validate and you have a reward saying task complete. So this can be useful, for example, by these times to create a task prompting to wash your hands, for example. So another useful tool would be the timetable. So on the top left corner of your screen, you have 3 buttons. The first one leads to the settings. I'll come back on it a bit. I'll come back to it a bit later. The second one is the communication book. So this is an example of a communication book that you can name. So home communication book. You can turn the page, and you have all the scenes that you created that are related to your home. This is quite useful to have. You can print it or send it. It's yes, in case your iPad breaks or whatever, it's quite useful to have like a paper copy as well. Another one that is quite useful is the timetable that is color coded by day, and so you can plan the user's week pretty easily. So at 9 on Monday, I will ask a task that is brush your teeth, for example. Up, done. Yeah, so at 12, go to. Oh, can you all still hear me? Okay.
Yes, we can hear you fine.
Oh, okay. Sorry. No, I think my Siri just came out. Okay. Okay. So this was the timetable that you can customize easily. Sorry, I just have my Siri that keeps. Okay. So then, yes. So the way you create a task is really easy. On the top right corner of the screen, you have all the buttons that allows you either to reorder the tasks. You can classify them by theme or by depending whatever you want. Then you can add a new one. So let's create a new one. I'm going to create a scene. So as you can see, there's a lot of tools that I can use. I can either take a photo on the right now, or I can draw a scene. In this case, I will add a scene from my photos, the photos of the iPad. Up, all photo. I'm going to use this one. I'm going to name it market. And first of all, I will create symbols, so actions. So I'm going to create I because I'm going to need it quite often. As the audio, I will add a text-to-speech audio, so which is auto generated depending on what you typed. Here you can listen to what you write, just to test if it's saying the text okay, and then save it. Up. I'm going to add a new one that will be like audio. I'm going to use the text to speech again and save it. As you can see, the symbols are generated automatically, which is quite handy. And the third one, please. Up. Same text to speech. Okay. So these are actions or symbols that that you have on this part of the screen. I will now add hotspots, which will describe what is happening on the picture. So as you can see, I typed the top left corner of the screen with the blue square, and then I tap on this square and choose edit. Voice support, I will say aubergines. So you can, to the hotspots, you can also attach a lot of things like video, a symbol, a link to another scene, for example. In this case, we are just going to use this name aubergine. I'm going to add a new one. Up. Carrots. And save it. So once you're happy, once you created all the hotspots and the actions that you need, I'm going to save the screen, to save the scene in the top right corner of the screen. And now the scene is ready to use. So I will tap on I like carrots. So you can't hear it, but I spoke for it. Or aubergine, please. So as you can see, it's really simple and really quick to create a new scene. So I think I covered a bit everything. I don't know if you guys have any questions now. So let me go back to the presentation. Yes. So where you can find our app. So Scene and Heard is available on the App Store. And so you can either find it on our website or going to the App Store directly. We also offer bundles, but this is more for UK people, which includes a device, any accessories such as switches or speakers, Bluetooth speakers, that we send ready to use. And we also provide one-to-one trainings if you are outside UK. This can be done via Skype. So just to make sure that the users understand all the features they can benefit from. So let's see if you have any question.
There were a couple of questions that came up, Gabrielle, while you were chatting. Some of them we've answered in the chat box, but they related a little bit to whether you could, whether you just need to have text to speech saying out the messages, or whether you could record audio as well.
No, you can record audio. I will show you how to do that. So let's go back. Let's edit the scene that I created. Add a new hotspot and place it on the bananas. I edit it, and audio, as you can see, you can press record voice, and when you press here, it will record basically my voice. So yes, it won't work in this case because once again the iPad is connected to the computer, but this is how to do that.
And just to say also that you can add a video as well. So if it was something you wanted to add in relation to bananas, or it was a video about some of the communication skills that you might use in this situation, then you can attach those as well to the hotspots. And you can also add a link to another scene. So if, for example,
Yes.
You went from the scene about the shop in the bottom left-hand corner, and that then linked, I don't know, to the scene on the second row, third along of the food laid out, then you could link that in that way as well.
Yes,
one
or
of the
like
other
the
questions
rooms of the. Sorry, go ahead.
exactly. No, go ahead.
Okay, so and yes, or the one like yes, the house with the rooms. I think it's quite nice to be able to link them to the different scenes for each rooms.
We also had a question about whether the app was in other languages, and from memory, and Gabrielle's got the app in front of her, she can double check, but it's currently available in Swedish, German and English as full versions of the app. However, it is used widely in other languages, and particularly sort of multilingual settings where clinicians will have things set up in the person's other language. So we had a question about Spanish, so it's not in Spanish, but you could, in theory, type the text in, have the text display in Spanish. You could record the audio in Spanish. The text-to-speech engine, however, is in English, and the app navigation aspects are all in English as well. But an example, for example, that I know of is that it's used, for example, by a number of people in the Czech Republic, where there's a real lack of AAC apps, and I've seen, pages and pages of content prepared in the Czech language. There's another example here in London. We have a very large Arabic-speaking population, and one of the acute hospitals had set up a communication app very quickly for one of their patients, working with family members to create content so that the person could talk about or ask questions about the hospital environment. So it's one of the, as I said, one of the benefits, I think, of it being quite simple and straightforward for families to be involved with using as well. Okay, are there any other questions that we can answer? We're very happy to do that. We've got a couple more minutes before we wrap up. One of the things to say in our little ad or our little plug at the end here is that next week is Autism Awareness Month is starting, and our app's going to be, all our apps are going to be on sale at half price from April 1st to the 6th, I think it is. So if you're looking to add this to your repertoire of apps, that might be a good time to do it.
If there is no other questions, I have one. Okay.
Oh, no, there is a question that's popped up, which is, can you back up the app? I think Gabrielle probably is good to answer this one.
So at the moment, you cannot back up the app, but what you can do is exporting scenes. I'm going to show you how to do that. If you go to the settings on the top left corner of the screen and you press import, you can select the scenes that you want to export. You select, then you tap the top right corner of the screen, and you can send them via email. And once you send you this email, and so once you send the email from another device, you can open this email, tap on the scene that is attached to the email, and choose to open them in Scene and HUD, and these scenes will be displayed in this part of the settings. I hope this answers your question.
And then our next question is, can you share the app to multiple devices? So I think the method that Gabrielle just showed, you would be able to export a scene. So I could create something and share it with you, for example, and then you could put it onto your iPad if you had seen and heard as well. So yes, you can share scenes between people, and I know that's done quite widely. Okay, any question, any other questions? I think Gabrielle had one thing you wanted to mention.
Yes, so we are planning on doing more training sessions like this during coronavirus crisis, and so I would like to know which app you would like to be trained on. I think you can create a poll with
Yes,
webinar.
you can do that, or if
Rebecca,
pop them
would
in
you like
the
to?
in questions or chat. That's probably the easiest way for us to gather them, I think. Yeah.
Oh yes,
But
in
yes,
the
if
chat.
any other, if you have suggestions on other topics you'd like to hear, let us know. And I just realized we forgot to mention one thing, which is that it is the app is accessible via Switch. It's Switch accessible, and there are a number of settings that you can see on the settings screen actually.
Yes.
That to customize the touch input as well. So there are a number of different ways you can customize the app to make it more accessible for people with physical needs. Okay. So yes, so thank you for your time, and if everybody's attention for our webinar, appreciate it. And if you have any questions, please let us know. And I've got a message here for somebody who wants me to email them, and I can certainly do that. And we look forward to seeing you next time. I hope you're all staying well.
Thank you.